thanks for tuning in to another episode of the MonkeyBoy Presents DC Comics Superhero Collection, and today we have issue number 22 for you, Donna Troy. I, of course, am your host, the MonkeyBoy, aka J2 His Friends, and these are brought to you by, of course, Eaglemoss Collectibles. Donna Troy is an interesting character, to say the least. She's got one of the most convoluted backstories you could ever imagine. DC has, for years, tried to figure out, I think, what exactly to do with her. Once upon a time, she was known as Wonder Girl, and her character is interesting because at some point in her timeline here, which we'll get to in the magazine, she becomes aware of the fact that there are all these multiple universes in the DCU, that there are variations of herself on all of them, and she's aware of all of them. She's lived as some of them, and she sort of becomes this caretaker of the multiverse in a sense. It's interesting. Anyway, we'll cover that in a little bit. First, we're going to go over the magazine, as always, which will tell us pretty much everything we need to know about Donna Troy. They skip over a lot of the old stuff, a lot of the Golden Age, before they really retconned her character. And then we'll cover the statue, the figure itself. We'll look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not a big fan of this particular character, but I do really like this figure. Anyway, we'll get to that. Sit back, relax, please enjoy another episode of the DC Comics Superhero Collection with issue number 22, Donna Troy. First up, we have Donna's character section. Donna's origin is pretty unique. Basically, when Wonder Woman was a child, she used to play in the mirror with her own reflection. A sorceress that lived at the Mascara saw how much fun Diana had and how lonely she was being the only child on the island. So the sorceress took a piece of her soul and put it into this reflection and gave this reflection of Diana life. And since it had a piece of Diana's soul, they considered it to be her twin sister and named her Donna. Unfortunately, shortly after she was given life, she was kidnapped by this evil sort of entity known as Dark Angel. And so these gods, these titans of myth, sort of protected her, raised her, taught her how to fight for herself, until finally she returned to Earth and became Wonder Girl. It also shows her gaining her starry costume for the first time, which was also a gift from the Titans of Myth. We also meet the man that would become her husband, a man named Terry, and learn that in order for them to have a child, which is something she desperately wanted, she had to give up her powers. Unable to get her powers back from the Titans of Myth, she left Earth with the newest Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner, and joined up with the intergalactic crime fighters known as the Dark Stars. After losing her ex-husband and son in this tragic car accident, she received an invitation to return to Themyscira from Wonder Woman and Queen Hippolyta personally, and she happily returned to her Amazonian sisters. With the help of the Amazons as well as her best friend Nightwing, she was able to get over this tragedy and actually became a mentor to the newest group of Teen Titans, including the new Wonder Girl, Cassie Sandsmark. The last couple pages catch us up with the character, at least with where she was at the time of this publication. We see her getting killed one last time in a skirmish with the cyborg Superman. She didn't stay dead very long, though, and this time when she was returned to life, she learned that there were multiple universes, that she had lived multiple lives, and she was actually tasked with sort of being the guardian of this knowledge of the multiverse. We also learned that during the events of the 52, she took over as Wonder Woman, while Diana Prince was serving with the federal government. Next up, we take a look at some of Donna Troy's classic storylines. First up, we have Teen Titans. Who is Wonder Girl? And this is considered by many to be the greatest new Teen Titans story ever told. It was the first real concerted effort to try and give Donna Troy, Wonder Girl, an actual origin story, establishing her as having been raised by the Titans of Myth, that she had had these, multiple lives, so on and so forth. It's beautifully illustrated and a really, really cool read. Next up, we have The Return of Donna Troy. And I think the title of this one says it all. This sees Donna Troy's resurrection after she was murdered by cyborg Superman, and she becomes aware of the multiverse, of all of her past lives, and she becomes sort of the guardian of this knowledge of the multiverse. And finally, we have Wonder Woman. Who is Wonder Woman? This was the story that re-established Donna Troy as a force to be reckoned with in the DC Universe. She took over as Wonder Woman after Wonder Woman relinquished the title and became this undercover agent working in the government. She really handled herself pretty well, ultimately giving the mantle up, but really showing once and for all that she is a powerhouse in the DCU. Next up, we take a look at some of Donna's friends and foes, and on the front page we have her sister Wonder Woman and her best friend Nightwing. The next couple pages are a good mix of good and bad, with her mom, Queen Hippolyta, there, dead center. Donna's iconography section talks about her powers and how they have varied based on which life she's been living. Mainly, she has the same powers as Wonder Woman, since she is her sort of twin sister. She's been trained by the Amazons in fighting techniques and that sort of thing. She can fly like her sister can. She's really quick and has the bracelets just like her sister. When she was a Dark Star, she also had the ability to manipulate energy. She was given a whole new power set because she had lost her Amazonian powers at that time. And then when she was reborn by the Titans of Myth, she was given the powers of the Goddess of the Moon and could actually manipulate darkness and cold. And finally, the original thinking section continues the DC timeline with Part 13, Egypt and the Sands of Time. And it's in this section we learn that Egypt actually held a small population of Homo Magi, which helps explain why they were so technologically advanced. We also learn that around 5,000 years ago, the Egyptians were visited by aliens that were sort of avian in appearance. And this was a discovery that was uncovered by Justice Society of America team member Hawkman, who was also an archaeologist. We finally learned 3,000 years ago that Jebediah, the boy who became Shazam, forged the Rock of Eternity, creating it out of a mountain peak from heaven and a mountain peak from hell that he forged together. Here we have Donna Troy. I'm not the biggest fan of this character. Her history is so convoluted and so just messed up. I mean, I don't even think DC knows what to do with her, really. But suffice it to say, the figure itself is great. Looks just like her. Love the pose. I think it's tough and sort of sassy at the same time. Her costume is really great. You know, as simple as Raven was, and that was a big complaint of mine, was how plain she looked. Donna, you could argue, is sort of, you know, just as plain looking, but when you really look at her, the details are great. She's got the little choker collar around with the logo on the center there. Her eyes are this great blue. Her hair is perfect, and the way it flows and waves down her back. And her black uniform has, you can see all that white flecking through there. It's supposed to be like the stars on her. And it's actually kind of pearlescent. It's really nice. And not to mention all the silver details as well. All the way down to the buckle on her belt with the little half moon and star logo that she has. Boots and all. I mean, I think it's just a great looking figure. And like I said, not a fan of this character, but a big fan of this particular figurine. A great addition to the line. Really nice to have her as part of the Titans as well. More pictures here in just a second. Donna stands above the DC logo, and on the underside of her base is her name and serial number. And real quick, a picture of her with fellow Titans, Nightwing, Starfire, and Raven. And a quick shot with her sister, Wonder Woman. So Donna easily could have fallen into, you know, the Raven category, where it's just a boring, bland kind of figure, but they managed to not do that with her, and I think they did a really good job. There are a lot of costumes they could have gone with her as well. I'm glad they chose this one. This is probably my favorite costume of hers. I think it's definitely her most iconic and her coolest, really. I think that red number from the 80s with the stars on the front and the W belt, I think that would have been kind of hokey looking. Never liked her as Troya or any of the other incarnations. This one I think is really the best one, and a great choice. Love the star deco on the costume as well. The good, let's just do it, the good. Love her hair, love her face. The pose is great. I love the way her hips are kind of, you know, swiveled or whatever there. She looks like she's feisty, you know. The costume is fantastic. Love the way it looks like she's wearing a starry night sky. It's really cool. The logo on the belt, all the silver paint for the metallic bracelets and things. Great touches. And the choker, too, around her neck is really brilliant. The bad, overall, mine is very nice. Again, you'll want to check yours before you get it. The only thing I guess I could complain about on mine is a little bit of paint bleed around the feet onto the base. Otherwise, she's pretty nice. The ugly, nothing really ugly on her to watch out for. She's a solid figure, both feet firmly planted. You know, she's just overall a really nice figure. I definitely recommend checking her out. You know, she looks great. I mean, putting her with Wonder Woman, you can definitely see a sort of resemblance between the two of them, which is exactly as it should be, since they're more or less twins on some level. Yeah, great figure. Love the Donna Troy figure. Not a fan of the character, but I really dig this figure. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this review of Donna Troy. Stay tuned after the credits for, well, before the credits, stay tuned for a quick teaser of the next issue. Yeah, a character that I didn't see coming at all, and I think most of you will be kind of surprised by it as well. Most people probably don't even really know a whole lot about this character, which is weird because I think a lot of people kind of recognize him. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'm your host, the Monkey Boy. We'll see you next issue.